Alright, now we've got our tie bar installed, we've got the roll pins installed, and just a little trick or a tidbit I like to use. If you've got a large pair of slip joint adjustable pliers, it makes it rather nice, especially something, it's got to be a fairly large pair, but you can actually get the roll pin started, and then instead of having to use a punch and everything's loose and flopping around, and you've got one hand free and you need 6 hands, this works quite nice to get the roll pins set in their proper spot. Now onto the back plate, where later our decal will go. We've got everything ready to go. We're just going to go ahead and install this. Now, a word of caution here, sometimes the torsion springs run into some rather stiff springs, and as you preload them it wants to actually push these pins to twist them or torsion them out. This, we lucked out today. The tie plate goes right on like it's supposed to. It doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes I've had to come in here with like a quick grip and kind of squeeze everything on the torsion springs back together. Not that that's a very fun thing to do, but sometimes we just have to do what we got to do. So next we've got to install these roll pins, and you may be asking, how in the heck am I going to get down inside of there to install the roll pins? Well, it's not very easy to do, but if you see down in there, you can see where the hole is. That being said, sometimes you run into the instance where, say, you can only see half of the roll pin hole. You can put another, like a quick grip or a C-clamp on here. You just have to be careful not to push right in the middle where there's no support in the back, because you can actually distort this cover in the back. So getting that lined up is a very fun process. I've found luck using a thin punch that actually fits inside the roll pin. Now, I may have to practice at this 2 or 3 times, but I've kind of gotten everything lined up there. And it looks like we may have to go ahead and grab a clamp here, because it's just far enough out that it could cause a problem. Now, instead of just me clamping right onto the back of this plate, I'm actually going to use a piece of wood in between to distribute the force that I'm going to exert on this. We'll see how this works. Just might be enough to get in there. Yep. As they would say, no dice. Back up and try again. That's all we can do. Okay, I apologize for the view on this shot, but it's kind of hard to illustrate. So we're putting the final, I think it's the 3/16 roll pin, down at the end of the shaft, but we've already had to compress the whole tie bar cover plate to get the roll pin holes accessible for us. Now, I'm going to be honest, this is a real pain. There's no way to sugarcoat this. I'm using a needle nose pliers to line up my roll pin. Well, I switch pliers to punch, and then very carefully, as Elmer Fudd would say, and then I mess that up. So you're going to repeat this process about 26 times, and eventually you will get the roll pin started in there. And if a person had a really long set of roll pin punches, that would be easier to get done. Okay. Alright, you'll see that I'm all lined up, and I realize it's probably hard as heck to see in the camera. Grab my hammer and try to get it started. I'll try not to hit the camera, because that would be a bad time, and then I drop the roll pin. Alright, so this is the way we've managed to compress the torsion springs with the tie bar and then the cover plate. to be able to install the roll pins. And we've already installed these roll pins because we don't have enough hands to video and do it at the same time. All I can say is it's going to be frustrating. If you get it the first time, it's like winning the Powerball. So more or less what we have to do is using C-clamps and note a piece of wood or something soft here to protect the new tie plate or your original, depending on what you've got. We have to compress the rubber and the torsion springs just enough that there's a gap between the roll pin and the little metal support in the back. That way we can get everything started. It's easier said than done. You know, little tricks on starting roll pins like this. If they don't want to start easily, you can take a little grinder. If you have a bench grinder, you can make the chamfer on the end that you're going to drive into the shaft a little more, a sharper taper, or I guess a milder taper if it would slide in there easier. That helps sometime. Having a roll pin punch is also rather handy, although it's not absolutely necessary, but the roll pin fits in there. If you don't have a set of these, invest in some. They are quite handy. So we've got this actually all installed and in place. Hopefully by now you're not terribly frustrated, and if you are, well, just walk away and come back another day. Now we're essentially ready to, we're going to install the shock absorber in the front, but only after I'm finished painting. I'm going to go ahead and shoot this all in green, and when I've had several coats of paint, we'll come back and install it on a new battery box on our seat, and we'll have new seat cushions and all of the other fabulous things we get to do when we're doing a full ride seat project. So hopefully that explained that. If not, refer to the instructions that accompany this on Steiner's website. I do provide some additional detail and perhaps some hints in there that maybe we did not have a chance to show or illustrate in the video.